Her name was Adeline Rhodes, and she started the Ultra Literacy Club in 1911. And I just think that was phenomenal. 1911, and you had to be married to belong to the club, but they would get together and they would discuss books, discuss black culture, and do artwork and stuff. Kind of, because that's another thing. A lot of people don't realize that black people have different segments too. We have higher society, and this was kind of high society in Fort Wayne. And because these women mostly had good jobs, or husbands that had good jobs. And anyway, that club started, and then they went to the Federated Women's Club, which was national. And so the other woman that I found out about was out of Indianapolis, because these clubs were linked. And she was named Sally Wright, and she is just phenomenal. I mean, she was really thinking out of the box. She would, she even went to an international women's conference in the 30s. So I really like her story, because she really empowered women. So you want to know more about her? Get on the site and read about her. Veronica Towns is an entrepreneur, a visionary, and she wrote her story for us, biography, and she tells all the things she encountered and how she overcame and got her business off the ground, which is Optimistics. And so to read more about her, go to the website, because she tells you all about herself, and she is I mean, she's worked with some of the biggest names in the country, and I think she said she has worked with like Beyonce, you know, I mean, really big names, people that you would know, and has been invited to overseas beauty conferences and stuff. So she knows her field really well, and I'm glad she was given the opportunity. And this was back in the day. His name was William Hayden. He just recently passed. But he was spotted from what he was doing, and he became the first black bank executive. People's Trust doesn't even exist anymore. But I would say that was a major breakthrough here, to be in charge of a financial institution, assistant vice president. But I think that's major. For our modern day, I would think Eric Wilson. He was born here, came out of high school here, but he's in Atlanta now, because sometimes opportunities just take you other places. And he's over a major company down there. So, like I said, I really would like people to get on here. And the best words I've ever heard, because I've written 2 plays for youth on Black history, and most of the people come up and they'll just say, I didn't know that. That's what I love. That's what I love to hear. I didn't know that, because that shows it's breaking through. Wendy Robinson and I go back to high school. I met Wendy. We are fellow classmates, known her for years. She has always been excellence personified. She was always the leader of our class. And if you get on her site, I pulled out 4 cauldrons and pulled out pictures of her in clubs and different ways she led even then. So I'm not the least bit surprised that Mrs. Robinson, who was Wendy Sanders when I met her, is the top of the Fort Wayne Community Schools. I'm kind of an eyewitness to history now, because I'm in my 60s, and I'm just from a different era now. We never saw black people hardly on TV. If it was Step and Fetch It. I can't even remember who they were right now. It's been too long ago. But they were kind of like comical figures. And we did get to see Nat King Cole sing, but even that, you just didn't see black people the way, the access that we have now. And so I remember as a child, if you heard somebody had done something, wrong, especially because even now today, we just hear a lot of things is wrong. You would say, man, I hope that wasn't somebody colored. So that's just the way we came up then. And I can remember standing in line, waiting until the whites were served in the department store here. That didn't happen that often, but I can remember that. So it's just a different time now.
Did it inspire you to see her on the screen?
Oh, yeah. When Fran came along, to have her at a local TV show, and she was always so brilliant and personality-wise and everything, you just loved to have that other out there example of somebody doing well, and she was great. And like I said, I was young. Just remember seeing her on there, and it was a positive, good thing. You know, I haven't, I have mostly worked through emails, have not spoken directly. Would have loved to have spoken verbally with Mr. Ridley, Richard Ridley, because he was someone during my time that broke a barrier. And my brother, Mark Washington, was a firefighter. He didn't come on there till the 70s. But Mr. Ridley was the first. And Roberta, his sister, has told me the stories. But and it's on here in his own words, being interviewed for the newspapers. But what he went through, now that is really breaking a barrier, because who he worked with did not want him there. And so that, and what he had to put up with, the sacrifices that he made.
Can you kind of go into that?
Well, the one that sticks out on my mind, you know, well, maybe you don't, but since my brother was a firefighter, they spend several hours, like 24 hours there or something. You got to sleep there, cook there, eat there, as you go out to fight, you know, fires and stuff. And they didn't want to sleep in the same room. And Roberta would tell me how he would have to carry his bed with him. So
who wouldn't want to sleep in the same room?
The white firefighters would not want to sleep in the same room with Mr. Ridley. And so he carried his bed. See, they have a living area in these firehouses, but they did not want him to be a part of that because he was black. Well, the Ridley family came here, I think in the early 1900s. I think some of them even lived in Garrett, Indiana. This is why I love all this stuff that you just don't even have a clue about. And anyway, it seemed to be a family that was high achievers. I've never found out exactly what attracted Richard Ridley to want to apply to be a firefighter. Now, Genoa's, I can tell you about Genoa's. I went to school with Genoa. She's a classmate. She's the first female firefighter, not first black female, first female firefighter for Fort Wayne Fire Department. She said when she was a child, the fire engine went by and there was a fire at a neighbor's, and she ran out onto the lawn and saw them go by, and she saw them rescuing this family. And that's how she first had the dream of becoming a firefighter. And who would believe that, because she was at IPFW studying something else to become, and a police officer was out there recruiting for the city, and that's how she first applied to work for the city, and she became a dispatcher. They recognized how good she was at what she was doing as a dispatcher, that the person that's over the fire department said, hey, listen, why don't you come try out for this? And that's how she became a firefighter. She tried out for that and she was successful. New Haven, Indiana, I haven't seen many, if any, and I was glad she went outside the box. She went over to New Haven, and I have known her since she was a teenager, And I never knew she wanted to be, oh, she tells why she wanted to become a police officer. Tragically, her brother was killed in a drive-by. So there's really personal reasons people want to become these. Connie Scott, the first African-American manager of that college library. It's not that that couldn't have happened before, but once the opportunity was there, you got to have your skills, your education, be ready to step in there. And so many of us are. We just need that opportunity.